Last summer, Michael Jarrett was getting married, and my Michael and I were invited to the wedding. Michael Jarrett was one of the active, faithful youth at Rolling Hills Baptist Church in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I served as associate pastor. Looking over the gift registry, I knew immediately what I had to get him: the ice bucket. Maybe the strangest pastoral call I have ever received was from Michael when he was 16 and had just begun driving. I was at the church office. I picked up the phone, and after the normal kind of exchange of greetings, he said, "Do you have a bucket?" Well, curious, I first wanted to figure out what the bucket was for, and he answered, "To bail out some water." Well, why do you need to bail out water? After much obfuscation, he finally got to the point. "I'm stuck in a mud hole." And then, of course, I had to restrain my laughing as I said to him, "Michael, if you are stuck in a mud hole, you are not stuck in the water. You are stuck in the mud. And so bailing the water out will have no effect. Have you been off-roading?" Which he denied. I told him he'd probably need to be towed. And when he realized that this was finally the case, I asked, "Do you have any money? Because this is going to be expensive." And he said, "Yeah, I've got money. I can take care of it." I said, "Do you have enough money? This is going to be expensive." He said, I've got it. I've got it taken care of. So I looked up some tow truck numbers in the phone book and gave them to him, and we hung up. And 5 minutes later, he called back and said, "I don't have that much money." So I went and got him and his friend Michael Nugent, and laughed when I saw the truck, which was stuck in a forested creekside area where people did indeed go off-roading in Fayetteville. Michael, of course, being 16 and thinking he was ready in life to take care of himself, was very embarrassed to have to be picked up and to get a ride back home and have to seek help from his parents. The dads found the episode very amusing. The mothers, however, did not. It may have taken me 7 years, but I did finally bring Michael Jarrett a bucket. The story came to mind this week as I was sitting down to write the sermon. It was provoked by a statement on the UCC website describing the church as one which sees and hears God at work in diverse, out of the ordinary, and whimsical ways. Well, the occasion for this description was the UCC's new evangelistic campaign around the video advertisement, "The Language of God," which will be released this coming Friday. And there's information in that insert in your order of worship. The card enthusiastically details how you can help this campaign and use it as a moment of personal witness and sharing your faith in an inclusive, still-speaking God. The National Church tells us that the ad encourages us to broaden our concept of when, where, and how God is speaking in the world. It will focus its attention on God and how we see and hear God in the world. This is, to quote, a pastoral message that invites exploration of the prophetic and sacramental sightings of God's handiwork. It celebrates the outward and visible symbols of God's grace that too often go unnamed and unclaimed by religious people. The prominent theme focuses on reintroducing people to a God that can be found and celebrated in all of life, and the hope is that it will ignite joy and wonder. The goal is to pique curiosity in a church that sees and hears God at work in diverse, out of the ordinary, and whimsical ways. Well, as you can see, this is a great opportunity to share this message of an inclusive Jesus Christ through email, blogging, and social networking. Well, one of the goals of this campaign is also to demonstrate our denomination's use of cutting-edge technologies, that we recognize God is still speaking in the relationships and the communities that are formed through even these new media. Last fall, when I was in Dallas at the Cathedral of Hope there, for one of my routine meetings with Joe Hudson, the pastor there, I was at the staff's snack break time. Dan Keeler, who is their minister to children and has been with us before, came up to me and laid his hand gently on my arm and said, "How's your nephew?" Well, I hadn't seen Dan in probably a year, and I was kind of confused. How's my nephew? And then I remembered Jacob had been sick the week before. I had posted that on my Facebook, and Dan Keeler in Dallas had seen it and remembered it and concerned about it, and next time he saw me, asked me about it. These new media allow for fascinating opportunities for relationship and community. Well, for this week's launch, the UCC invites us to consider the math. The United Church of Christ has 25,386 fans on Facebook alone. If each posts the language of God for their Facebook friends to see, it will reach 3,554,040 viewers in minutes. And if just a fraction repost it, then even millions more will learn of the United Church of Christ. Now, our communications team, which is the new name for what we used to call the E-Team, has been for some time promoting these free forms of evangelism afforded by our online presence. Because we don't have other means of getting our message out easily or a physical presence that can draw people easily, we have been very intentional and aggressive in our development of and use of online technologies through this church. So I decided I could do some math similar to what the United Church of Christ did. Just figuring the following of our Cathedral of Hope Facebook page. So when I wrote this on Thursday, we had 241 Facebook fans. And so I started out going to each of their pages and seeing the number of friends that they had, eliminating the ones they had in common with me in an effort to try and reduce duplication as much as I could. After 25 of the 241, I realized this was way too time-consuming and I was not going to get through all of it. So I thought, I'll use those 25 to estimate what the total figure would be. Well, just those 25 Cathedral of Hope fans had 10,274 friends. Now, assuming that 10% of our fans is reflective of the other 90%, then I estimate that our 241 Cathedral of Hope Facebook fans have a total of 99,074 friends. Well, what does that mean? That when we post something on our Facebook site, which we do all day, every day, Eric does a fantastic job with that, if all of our fans reposted it on their site, then we could reach close to 100,000 people with a message of the welcome and inclusion of the still-speaking God that can be found in this congregation.